I am the Judas resurrection.
One morning, out in the world, I was smoking a cigarette in an alley next to a mechanic's shop. It was a steel gray morning with clouds you couldn't see, but the sky was blanketed with a veil. And I saw this truck go by, one of these what I consider big dump trucks. I don't know, unless you can use it for something like mudding, which I know people do. The biggest problem I have is watching how angry they get when they try to park them in a parking lot. They get upset like somebody's not leaving enough room for them. But it went blowing by, and I said, I know that guy. This happens to me. It seems everywhere I am in the world, I run into people I know. There was once I was at a concert in the Palace in Auburn Hills, and a friend of mine, I guess, knew a couple other guys that I kind of knew from drinking with them together. And I was walking to the bathroom at the show, and I heard my name, Archie. It was just said, and Cherry's cocktail party effect, selective hearing. It caught my name, and I turned around, and there was Ron and the other dude. And I said, what? And they said, ha ha ha. What they were saying was, keep an eye out for Archie. Fryer said he's going to be here. And I was standing there when they said my name. It was like I appear from nowhere. For what reason? I suppose just to drink a few beers and enjoy a show. I mean, that's not the only time that's happened to me at a concert. That's how I found Vizanko again. He said my name. He was behind me. And I turned around and said, what? And he said, on the lawn at, it's in Mountain View. I don't know. It's that. So it just so happens that I show up places where people are. I guess that's what happens when you've been out into the world enough. The world gets smaller and smaller. And so I'm standing there, and I see this truck go by, and I said, that's him. And I walked out of the alley to get a better look and look at his license plate. And I got a good look, but I couldn't catch the numbers because I didn't have my glasses on. And I said, that doesn't quite look like his. And it went by, and it took the right at the light. And I said, so I went back into the alley and smoked some more. And I said, that can't be him, because he's supposed to be somewhere by 8 o'clock. And it's 8 now. And like 3 to 5 minutes later, vroom, he went blowing back. And I said, he's late. He's been up to something. He's probably buying drugs over there. There's no way. He must not be working today if he's not there. So he's just out early getting drugs. That's what I figured. I didn't believe it. But that was one reckoning that could be true. And so the next time I was around where he would be, his truck was there where it would be, and he wasn't. So I walked around his truck, and I looked at the plate, and it was the same plate I saw, but it just didn't seem right because I thought his plate was different. And I noticed things when I walked around the truck. And then the next time I saw him, were you over there? He said, yeah. Well, how do you know that? I said, I was in the alley. And I said, I looked at your license plate, but it didn't mesh with what. And he said, yeah, I just had to get them replaced. And if you wait too long to do it, somebody else can take your plate number. So they took his plate number. He had to get a different way of doing it. I said, interesting. Well, that's it for the coffee. So the other day I was going through some things and I was looking for an unpaid check, an uncashed check in my pile of things on my desk. And along the way, I find things that have been moving and following me throughout the years. And it's like, well, geez, every time I see this, I I think there's nothing I have to do with it. There's got to be something I can do with this. But I can't think what. And so since Kalamazoo, where this showed up where I was once, I picked it up and I said, I can use that. It's just missing some posts, but maybe somebody will want it someday. I look around every time I run across it. I think there's no place it can go on in the studio. There's no place for it. It doesn't belong here. And so I was about to just throw it away. And I couldn't bring myself to it. Yesterday, I ran into this guy out in the world again, and a Chevy truck went by. And he said something about a Chevy. And I said, you drive a Chevy, don't you? And he's like, yeah, I do. And what I noticed missing that day, I said, and you're missing the chevron on the front of it, right? He said, the what? I said, that little emblem, that thing that goes in. And he says, yeah. He says, the mold part is still there, but the outside fell off. And I said, I do not know if it will fit, but I've got one I can give you the next time you see it. I said, the posts are broken off, a couple of them. It's still got 4 of them. And he says, I don't care if it fits at all. He says, I can make it work. And he was like, you mean you've got one? You know, that type of thing. And I could see how happy it was. And this is a guy that that prays. He's not afraid to talk about it. And he says he'll pray to God and an answer will come. And, you know, I don't mind that. That's a good thing. I figure it could be that the answer's been in him all along and it's just a form of meditation. That's good prayer. We can all do it. The mind works in mysterious ways. But so I think about it, me showing up, and it was obviously something that perturbed him. He doesn't like that empty space there. And it may be that he had silently prayed, not actively, but geez, gosh, fucking, please, God, bring me something to take care of that. I don't have it in me to go looking for one. And it could be, I'm the guy that answers wishes. I'm the guy that answers prayers. And I don't think that's a bad thing to be. He said to me, he said, how is it you think of these things? I said, what are you talking about? And he said, who would be thinking about this and doing that for me, type of thing? And I said, I don't know. He said, it just occurred to me. Again, it's not such a bad way to be. Remember, we are the Judas resurrection. What I really meant to do here. Hey, how you doing? We are the Judas resurrection.